That steak dinner I picked up there can replenish Eriko's health to full, so it's a very good find.
Cool.
The calculator adds some functionality to the horror monitor. It tells you the odds that the next trap has of killing you or causing you to faint. I don't think it's very useful, as we can just tell that just from the heart rate. And that bandage can staunch a little bit of bleeding. Every little bit helps. Now, Eriko was hit from the meat man and was bleeding a little bit, but she's healed from it already. Anytime we take physical damage, and that definitely was physical damage right there. Anytime we take physical damage, in addition to losing health, the bleeding meter increases. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a red meter that has appeared over the green one. That's the bleeding. We want to keep that as low as possible. If that red meter reaches its top, Eriko will die from blood loss. Now, that green meter below it, that's our health. Yeah, the green meter is the health. If that reaches its bottom, Eriko will die from that as well. So far, there's 3 ways of dying. So ILLBLEED is not shy about trying to kill you in as many ways as possible. And as long as Eriko is bleeding, we don't want to run, as running can cause the bleeding to increase. That blood could come out of a number of shower heads, and I was just unlucky enough to stumble into that one. Now, sometimes a giant hand comes out of that window up there. It didn't happen this time, but I want to take a look at what its alternate animation looks like. Some traps have an alternate animation, most do not. Whose ridiculously huge hand is that? We'll be finding out later on, but for right now I want to staunch Eriko's bleeding, so we'll use a bandage. That'll bring the bleeding down to 0. Now we're approaching one of the most important items in the level. It is a key item. If you remember at the beginning, it said we have to watch out for memories of Jimmy, and this is one of them. The HOMERUN BAT.
Jimmy, it's time for practice. Get out to the training field now. Hey, you're not Jimmy.
So now we have one of the key items of the level, but more importantly we have the first weapon. Eriko will automatically use the bat in combat instead of her fists. Now, while I stumble around this area looking for something, I want to mention something about bleeding. If Eriko's bleeding gets too high, her health starts to drain. So if you have only a little bit of health left, bleeding too much could shave off the rest of it. And if you're in a fight, you're going to need to run around, which is only going to increase your bleeding and deplete your health further. So bleeding is something that you have to be very conscious of when playing ILLBLEED, as it can get out of control very easily. Now I tagged what I was looking for, but Eriko can't quite reach it from here. How is she going to get to that tree? Well, Eriko can do something that a lot of survival horror protagonists cannot. She can jump. Now, the Iron Heart is an item that we can use to upgrade one of the stats of the characters. It can make a character more resistant to pulse increases and thus less likely to be killed by shock. And there's a structure up ahead, but before we take a look at that thing, get this, nitroglycerin does not do in this game what you think it does. Instead, Eriko can chew it to lower her heart rate to a safe level if it's gotten too high. Now, as for this thing over here, this is a photo booth. Dummy Man's photo booth. Dummy Man is an angry crash test dummy who is going to try to kill us now and again, but fortunately for us, his hobby is photography, and he lets us save our game with his photo booths. So we'll save that right now, and continue on exploring Chateau Banballo next time on Let's Play ILLBLEED.